Mr. Romanto.
Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, Chris McQuillen joins us, talking about the upcoming Toyman Toy Show right here in St. Louis, with his special guest, the voice of Charlie Brown, Duncan Watson. After that, we're talking to Keone Young for the rest of the hour. From Storm Shadow to Commander Sato, we'll talk about all that, plus some other stuff. Stick around.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors, 4 Hogwarts houses, 1 ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you out there listening. If you're streaming us on YouTube and Facebook, hello to all of you watching the stream. Thank you very much for tuning in there. If you're streaming us on the KTRS app or on the website, we appreciate you listening that way. And as always, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form on whatever platform you do receive your podcasts, thank you very much for listening there. I know I just talked to somebody today or yesterday, last night I was at an event, and they said, man, I'm not up late enough to listen to you live, but I always go back and listen to it the next day or two afterwards. So however you're listening to the show, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting it. We do appreciate that, and I appreciate all the kind comments that we receive on the guests that we have and what it is that Joey V and I do here. Speaking of guests, we're going to go right to the phone lines. We've got Chris McQuillen, the owner of Toyman Toy Show, joining us, and a special guest who he will have appearing next Sunday, the 28th, at the Machinists Hall. He's got Duncan Watson, the voice of Charlie Brown. Gentlemen, thanks for being on air with me tonight.
Not a problem. Always happy to be here.
I mean, it's great to have you. So I know, Chris, once again, Toyman's upon us, and I can't imagine, putting these out as often as you do, but every single show is always a great time. I'm sure you've got to feel a little like Santa Claus just once a month.
Yeah, it's love to bring back the celebs back from that we had that were COVID.
Yeah,
and children.
And yeah, and this time you've had some other Charlie Brown voice actors come in this past year, but we're getting the main man himself. Duncan Watson is coming in. I was looking over the ones that you did, Duncan. Talk a little bit about, as a 12-year-old kid, getting cast as Charlie Brown, because that's just one of those universal characters that everyone knows, like Bugs Bunny, and getting cast as that role. What was that like as a 12-year-old?
Well, it's a perfect Charlie Brown origin story. The Reader's Digest version is I was at recess one day in 3rd grade at my school in Tiburon, California, and a recess bell rang, and I was heading back to class, and I would notice that outside of a classroom that was not my own, there was a line that had formed, and that looked way more interesting than where I was headed. So I just stood in the line. I had no idea what the line was for, and I get to the front of the line, and they asked me, what voice I'd like to read for. I said, I don't really know what you're doing here. And so I sat down, and they gave me 3 lines. I read it. 15 seconds later, I was back to my class. And I didn't tell anything about it to my parents. So when the producers called and said, we liked your voice test, we want you to come in for another one, they were just surprised as I was about the whole thing. So it was a pure luck experience, I guess, putting yourself in the path of beauty.
That's very serendipitous. So as growing up, I feel like every child in America had a pig pen in their classroom. Did you have a pig pen in your class growing up at grade school?
Not in grade school, but we definitely had one in my fraternity at the University of New Hampshire.
That's almost worse if they're in college.
Yeah. That's actually that was his nickname too, so it was funny.
There you go. And I know, Chris, you work so diligently to bring in these fantastic guests, and I feel like this year it's been nonstop, all the cool people you're bringing in. I know we had Lucy and Peppermint Patty earlier this year. I guess everyone's been kind of waiting for Charlie Brown, though. They kind of knew you were building to this, yeah?
Oh, definitely. We've been talking to Duncan about having him at the event, and then we've also talked about having the voice of Snoopy as well come to the show, which we're still working on. And, of course, we've had Lioness on previous years at the show.
So what, Duncan, do you have people ask you to sign the most because you're making the rounds on the convention things? Is it because I used to have the booklets, the actual hardback books like Happy Thanksgiving Charlie Brown, It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, the Valentine's Day one. I had the books. Obviously, now, though, different licensing, people are making Funko Pops and action figures and statuettes. What are some of the coolest things that you've seen that people are asking you to sign?
The things that have been moving out lately have actually been hats and T-shirts with the classic Charlie Brown squiggly line on them, and on the hats they have a picture of Charlie Brown, and but it also features some of the look or the color of Charlie Brown, and those are flying as they are. And then I've got a bunch of really cool prints of different scenes of Charlie Brown, and then people sort of see something that's their favorite, and then they just gravitate right to that.
I know some of the other actors have brought different pictures and prints, like you said, and I think Peppermint Patty, the voice actress whose name now escapes me sadly, had some of the smaller paperback books. So I guess you kind of travel with some of those as well, yes?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and Funko Pops are obviously huge. A lot of times people bring in their own Funko Pops that they want me to sign. But they also, I've got some of those classic Charlie Brown books that you would go to the Five and Dime to pick up and read, and had a collection of, and other miscellaneous things like that. Yeah, so they'll be absolutely coming along.
And luckily, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds so cool, but I don't have anything for Duncan to sign. Luckily, Chris McQuillen has you covered because all the vendors that he brings out for these Toymans, you kind of have a great group of people, Chris, and they know if we're going to have a certain guest, I'm going to bring stuff that is going to be perfect for that guest to sign.
Oh, definitely. You figure Toyman has been around for 35 years, so we do have a lot of vintage toy vendors there. Myself, I have one of the original lunch boxes that's metal, and I also have a plastic one, both Peanuts and Charlie Brown, which I'll have him sign. But it's going to be amazing with the vendors. I have 140 vendors, 220 tables. This will be filling the show. We also have another guest, Miss Susanna Malak, who has been in the Book of Fett and the Mandalorian series and has been in multiple episodes. So we'll have double guests at this event as well at Toyman.
So bring your Charlie Brown stuff and bring your Star Wars stuff. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And if some of the kids, you don't have to worry about coming, even if you have a peanuts allergy. That's my time. Thank you. I'm gone. I'll be out for the night. So this is, again, these events are so cool, and they go on, for those of you who are unfamiliar, because just like I always think someone might be tuning into my show for the very first time, maybe you're listening and you've never been to a Toyman somehow. These go on at the Machinists Hall on the St. Charles Rock Road in Bridgeton, right there at 270 in the Rock Road. You cannot miss it. Right next door to the giant Target store. Come out. The early bird starts, remind me, Chris, 8 o'clock for early birds?
Yeah, 8 o'clock from 8 to 9 o'clock is $15, and then 9 till 2 is $5 for admissions. And then it gets you in, even meet the celebs as well.
Yeah, so this is like one of those, if you want to go up and just say hi, the celebrities that Chris brings in are always just happy to talk, happy to chat. You don't need to get something signed, but you also don't want to walk out without having, I missed my chance to get, my Funko Pop or my print or whatever signed by some of these people. And I'm sure the Star Wars guests will have some really cool things there that kind of relate to that. So this covers a couple different fandoms. And I know we've got a couple more shows left in the year. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, is this going to be the last one? No, Chris, you've got, I think, 2 more shows after this one that's coming up next Sunday.
Yes, we have the November event and then December event. Our November event's going to have a person from Ninja Turtles and, of course, Philo Barnhart from our Disney artist, which is a father of Ariel and Belle. And then in December, we have the voice of Flash. And, you'll be surprised. So if you can find us somewhere within the social media realm of under Toyman Show or Toyman STL, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You'll find Toyman Show somewhere out there.
And I see Joey V, if you're listening to this right now, Joey V, my executive producer, has already put a link to the Toyman website that you can check out. It's in the comments right there if you're just now listening and tuning in. How many of these shows do you do a year, Duncan? Or are they just kind of hit or miss? Do you get like sometimes are the holidays? I would think people want Charlie Brown out for Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas. Does that kind of get a little more busy for you? Is it just kind of depend on the season and what the event is?
It depends on the season and the geography, really. But there's Comic-Cons all year long, generally speaking, and toy shows and card shows and all kinds of great events where you can browse your hobbies and meet some cool people. And this is part of the gig. And I've probably done about 20 of them over the last 3 years, all over the country. And it's just so amazing to see how many Peanuts fans are out there. I mean, they're just legion, and they're incredibly positive, and I love making the connection with the memories that they have of their parents or their grandparents, and it's spanning the generations. So it really is a timeless a cartoon character and a group of cartoon characters within Peanuts, and it's just I'm so grateful and humbled to be associated with it.
Yeah, it's got to be quite, like I said, this legacy character that's been around for, I think, if I did the math right, almost 65, almost 70 years now. Not quite that long, but
75
almost.
Years. Peanuts' 75th anniversary this year. Yep.
Wow, 75 years. I didn't think it was that. Man, that shows. I always think 1990s was 10 years ago, though, too, so what do I know?
Well, also it's the 50th anniversary of my first one, which was Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown. So big years for me ahead. The next 3 years are 50th anniversaries for the various shows that I've done.
Yeah, that's impressive. And again, if you're listening right now, we're going to have links to all these things if you want to go check out Toyman Toy Show. And do you, if people want to find out more about you or look into some of the stuff that you've got coming up down the road, maybe someone's listening outside the St. Louis area. It's like, boy, I wish Duncan would come to where I am. Do you have other cons you can mention, or is there a social media site you can send people to find out more about you?
My personal Facebook page, actually, with my name on it, is the best way to sort of get a hold of me. In the sense that if I'm going to a con, I post stuff on there. I don't have a voice actor professional page. Probably should one of these days. But just myself, Duncan Watson on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. But that's at Slam Dunk with DUNC 2112. That's how you can find me there. So easy to find me, and I post my events. And I also have written a book that I'm on a book tour on. So I'll have some of those available at the show as well for people who might be interested in the topic. So I really look forward to this show. The show has an amazing reputation. I hear it's a great time for everyone, the vendors, the patrons coming in, the fans. It sounds like a great experience. I can't wait to be there.
No, you're in for a huge treat because nobody does it better than Chris. These are fantastic shows. And Chris, I'm going to give you the last word also on this because obviously, in addition to the toys, not just Charlie Brown and the Star Wars stuff, but there's posters, there's Matchbox cars, there's girls' toys. I saw a guy had antique trains there last time. It's a little bit of everything. What do you want to say to people who were like, this sounds fun, but gosh, is this for me? What are you going to let them know?
What about the authors? What about the crafters? What about the one-of-the-kind crafts that you see with glass etchings? Then you have illustrators. We have, of course, our cosplayer Gateway City Ghostbusters. We also have, a lot of different artisans up there, 3D printed items, and we have Pokemon cards. So it's literally toys or collectibles, cards, and crafts. So it's everything wrapped up in one in 2 floors.
If you walk out of there and you didn't find anything you wanted, I don't know what to tell you because I usually walk out of there either completely broke or I'm walking out going, gosh, I should have gotten that. And it happened to me. There was a guy who had a RoboForce telephone there, perfect condition. I was like, oh, that looks really cool. I'm going to come back around and if it's still there, and I missed out on it. So I was so disappointed, but I liked the phone so much. Luckily, I found it a little bit later on someplace else, not in as good a condition. But it's one of those things, if you see something you want, a lot of these buyers, just kind of say, hey, you've got $50 in this. Would you go 45? 95% of the time, they'll work with you on those kind of things. So it never hurts to ask. The worst they can say is no. But like I said, if you can't find it at Toyman, you probably cannot find it anywhere. Duncan Watson, Chris McQuillen, thank you so much for your time tonight. I look forward to seeing you both next Sunday, the 28th, at Toyman in Bridgeton.
Fantastic.
Right then.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good night.
Good night.
There they go. That's going to be a lot of fun. If you're listening right now and you've not been, go check it out. We're going to take a brief commercial break here. We're going to come right back. We've got Keone Young on deck, and he's going to be with us for the rest of the hour. We're going to talk a lot about his career, and there's a lot there to talk about. We're also taking your texts and questions. If you want to send us a text, the KTRS text line 84126. Just type in your name, where you're from, and what your question is for Keone. We'll get that asked. You can also leave it in the chat if you'd like. We'll be right back. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550. Please stand by.
Take a ride. What can you do with the Public Works Center? You can build a crane and watch it drop some bricks into a bin. Or lift the door, roll out the truck, and let the bricks fall in.
The action's up to you.
The Legoland Public Works Center from the Legoland Town Collection. Legoland gas station sold separately from Lego Systems.
Pound Puppy, you're my one and only puppy love.
You can show your Pound Puppy how much you love him with snuggly Pound Puppy outfits.
Into your hooded on t-shirt. We're going biking. Snap your pop's jazzy jacket.
Pound Puppies and outfits, each sold separately.
Whoa! Now let's walk to the park. Uh-oh, thunder. Put on your dry doggy rain gear and you'll stay dry as a bone.
Hooded Hound t-shirt, Dry Doggy Rain Gear, Pup's Jazzy Jacket, and Pound Puppies all sold separately. From town.
Max Steel Robo Force!
Hunter the Conqueror is about to attack Max Steel the Leader. Wrecker the Demolisher to the rescue.
Ideal's new RoboForce. Warrior robots with gripper bases and crusher arms, each sold separately.
Hunter's escaping.
Okay in there?
Okay, Dad. But we won't be safe till we're rid of Hundred.
Hundred the Conqueror, Max Steel the Leader, Wrecker the Demolisher, each sold separately. New from Ideal's RoboForce.
Long ago at Rose Petal Place, Orchid met Nastina, the evil spider. Doll sold separately.
Oh, no, Orchid. It's Nastina. Wait till I tiptoe through your tulips, Rose Petal. Watch out, Nastina. The sky is falling.
And affiliates.
Hi, this is Andrea Romano. I happen to be the voice director for many animated series, including the Justice League. You are listening on Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Geek to Me Radio, heard here every Sunday night on the Big 550 KTRS. I'm your host, James Enstall. Really quickly, want to tell you about our official comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games. If you are wanting to get out there and pick up some new comics, maybe these superhero movies, maybe you saw Fantastic Four or you saw Superman. Now that it's streaming as of the 19th, you can see Superman on HBO Max. And you're like, boy, I haven't picked up a Superman comic in quite some time. Head out to Bugs Comics and Games. He's got a huge variety of brand new issues every Wednesday, so you can go in and get your new comic books as they come out. If you're looking for back issues, maybe you want to go find some of those classic George Perez or John Byrne covers on Action and Superman. He's got those too, different price points. If you're looking for something more of the Silver Age, he's even got that. He's a huge swath of comic books, and if he doesn't have it, ask him for it because he can probably source it for you. It's like having your own personal comic book concierge. He's right there on Bryan Road in O'Fallon, Missouri, easily accessible from either Highway 364 or from Highway 70. You can get out there and pop in and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Larry's going to help you find it. I was just in there this past week, and the guy comes in again. He's got a 10-year-old kid, and he's like, I kind of want him to start reading Spider-Man. And Larry goes, okay, well, age appropriate, this is what you're going to want. And he just helped him out, didn't oversell it. You know, he could have given him like, well, here's this $20 comic book that I know he'll like. Larry's not that kind of guy. And if you're looking to divest yourself of your collection, if you've gotten to the point where it's just overwhelming, you've got too many comic books, let Larry know because he's going to give you a very fair price for your back issues, and then they're going off to a good home. Bugs Comics and Games on Instagram and on Facebook as well. You can check him out there, follow his page, and give him a like. That'll make him happy. And if you're looking for back issues, new issues, toys, games, bags, board, join the Avengers Club so you start saving money on all the stuff you're going to buy anyway. In this economy, you can save money anywhere you can. That's a great way to do it. Bugs Comics and Games, very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. So excited to talk to my next guest. He's an actor, live action and voice. He does equally on both. There's like just goes back and forth between them. You might know him as Storm Shadow on G.I. Joe if you're closer to my age. Commander Sato from Star Wars Rebels, which I love that series. Everyone talks about Clone Wars. Rebels never gets enough love. Also, Mr. Wu in Deadwood, which I know I've got a couple friends who are like, you've got Mr. Wu on your show tonight. So they're very excited. Literally a little bit of everything, and we're going to try to talk about as much of it as we can. Very proud to welcome Keone Young to the show. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Hi, James. How you doing?
Good. This is exciting to have you on.
Thank you.
Where to start? Because there's so many things. I know the last time I just saw you was at Farley Con in Chattanooga, and I drove down for that, or flew down. I didn't ride, flew down, but Rocky puts on a fantastic show. That was my first Farley Con, and I think you've been there a couple times, though, yes?
Yes, and next year Rocky's going to call his Farley Con Joe Nuga, as in
Nice.
Chattanooga. So it's a G.I. Joe kind of like theme kind of con, and he's going to have a lot of us there. He's going to have, and people that you never really get to see, like B.J. Ward's going to be there, who was Scarlet, and she rarely makes appearances now. You know, we're getting up there, so we kind of like we make our choice selections, carefully. But Rocky's a great guy. He's a great promoter, and it's a great show. I'm going to be there. Larry Hama is going to be there, the creator of the show, and Greg Berger, of course, and Zartan. Zach Hoffman's going to be there because the Dreadnoks have become big lately.
Yeah, they just had that the San Diego Comic-Con released that exclusive box set of them in their Cold Slither outfits from that particular episode.
Right.
And
well, Zartan's going to be there, and Lisa Raggio is going to be there, who played Zorana, Zartan's sister. And Neil Ross is going to be there, who actually played a couple Dreadnoks too.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, all the voices. You do 2 or 3 on an episode sometimes, just depending on the show you were on and the contract you were on. When you first started an actor, I know you and I are Facebook friends, and you tell these great stories sometime on Facebook about coming up in Los Angeles and struggling, and you all that cool stuff. It seems from a vantage point now of several years on, almost a little bit romanticized. But I'm sure at the time it didn't feel very romantic, or was it?
No. I like to tell people that, I've been rejected by the best. So I mean, I met all these people, all these great people, and an actor's life is tough because, we rarely get a chance to apply our craft. And when we do, we have to be ready. So, I mean, I was lucky with G.I. Joe when they called, and I was ready for them. But there were times in my young career, like, I met John Cassavetes, and I went to meet him, and I was totally not ready. And but I had a nice meeting with him, and that's all I can say about that. I can brag about, oh yeah, I met John Cassavetes once, and he rejected me.
But like you said, rejected by the best is something to claim.
With a lot of other people like Bertolucci, I met Bernardo Bertolucci, and so I mean, I don't know if he directed that movie, The Last Emperor, and other great movies. But yeah, I mean, it's been a long, great career, but I've been very tenacious, and that's how I've got to do a lot of these shows, because I just hung around. I just never said I quit.
And there's something to be said for that. That's how people like you, they do move forward. It's the people who decide they're going to give up that we don't hear from. So because you're here talking to us, it has been, as you said, that tenacity, that tenacious spirit. Is that something that was just, you kind of naturally had that in you? Were you raised to be tenacious?
Well, I'm from Hawaii, and we call ourselves coconuts because heads are hard on the outside, but soft on the inside.
I feel like I can relate.
The best choices, you know what I mean? But we stick to it. We will stick to it, and we are tenacious. And I came to Hollywood with some great people, good-looking people, and a lot of them just gave up because they just couldn't take the pressure the industry itself. But I was always taught, like, if you had craft, if you had training, you would survive in
Yeah.
this business. And I did. I had a great mentor. His name was Mako. Now, Mako, maybe your uh, fans will know from Avatar. He played Uncle Iroh in Avatar,
Oh, okay.
and he played Aku in Samurai Jack. But he was also an Academy Award nominated actor for Sand Pebbles with Steve McQueen, and also a Tony Award nominee for Best Actor on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
But he was a great actor, and he always told me, you're. Well, he told me first. He said, "You're." I said, "How can I become a good actor?" And he said, "Well, you got to understand. First thing is you're not a good actor." and so he made me go and study. And I went to New York and I studied, I studied opera. I studied ballet. I studied languages. I took acting classes, Stanislavski and the Polish technique from Grotowski. And so I studied actor studio. I mean, I studied everything, and I continue to study today. And that's what makes a difference. That, people think, oh, it's easy. I just go do this anime. I just go. No, I'm trained.
Yeah.
And I keep training. Like, for example, like I mentioned anime, like, anime comes from Japan.
Right.
So you have to give it a certain, in Japanese, we say aji, which means taste, a kind of like the taste, but the real taste of something. When you taste something real, like a good hot dog, and you can tell the difference between a real good Milwaukee Brewers hot dog versus a LA Dodger dog. There's just no comparison.
Shots fired,
Sorry,
folks.
guys. Huh? I mean, so we always strive for quality, and so I keep studying today. I take classes today. I study languages. I study music, and music really helps in your performance because it's our voice, but it's what does that voice entail? It's texture, it's rhythm, it's tone. And so if you have a grasp of all these things, you can do a lot of you can do a lot of things. And that's what's important in production, is producers want somebody who can do it without having to, who can produce it without having to search for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember when it was that you first got bitten by the acting bug? Do you remember, was it a certain movie you saw or a play you went to see or something that triggered that feeling in you? It's like, that's what I want to do.
Well, I can tell you that, I have a son, and when he was like 7 years old, I think he was in the 3rd grade, he came home and he said, "I don't want to go to school anymore." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "School kills my creativity." And so I said, I can't disagree with you.
Right.
The nature of school is, to prepare you for social integration.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up in the morning, you go to your job, you do your job, no matter whether you like it or not. By the end of the day, you're done, and then you go party. And I just couldn't function for me. I mean, I was different. I kept searching for things to do, and finally, I started working in the theater, and I said, "Wow, this is great. These people are very open. They're not critical. They were critical, but their standards were different. They didn't care how I looked, how I dressed, how I talked. They just wanted some kind of kinetic and very simple honesty." And that's how I started liking performing. Actually, I wanted to be a designer or a lighting person, create art that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then I watched acting. I would watch a play every night backstage, and I became enthralled with some people. And for example, like I was 15, and there was this young woman who was a year older than me. She was 16, and she dragged me into doing small parts because no actors wanted to do those small parts. You know, we did chorus together in My Fair Lady. We did How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. You know, I was 15 years old. She was 16. And when we graduated high school, she went to New York and she became Bette Midler.
No kidding.
No kidding.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, you know, I've had that kind of storied life, very, very fortunate, but very, you know, very interesting.
Do you and Bet still exchange Christmas cards? Is it
No, but when I see her, you know, I say hello, and Bet is like a local Hawaii girl, and she can sling that pigeon with the best of us.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think it's funny, too. You posted, you're very candid on Facebook, which I love. You talked about, you posted your role on Alias, and you said, looking back at that now, you felt that was a kind of you felt your performance was kind of forced and you weren't natural. Is that just part of that? I'm sure is just being self-critical. But when did you feel, do you remember a certain role that you finally felt like, oh, I'm in my groove. This is exactly how I want it to be?
Well, you know, I tell you what, it was with J.J. Abrams. I don't know if you know J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
He's the guy who did Lost. He did all the Star Wars movies. He did those Star Trek movies. It was his show. And when you work in TV, there's a certain framework that you have to work in. You know, they shoot 8 pages in a day or so, and you have to function in a really strict capacity. You have to be there. You have to hit your mark. You have to say your line. You have to make the star look good. So I learned really quick that those craft things that you have to have down. But what happens is you forget about the role of performing. You know, you become like just a tool to propel the story, and the story propels the commercials that makes people want to watch the commercials. And so, you know, I was pretty good. I learned that really quick in my life, you know, that I could do everything in 1 take, 2 takes, support the star, because you're not the star. And that's what we are, supporting actors. We support the star. We make the star look good, because because we have to give all the what do you call the epilogue? You know, we have to give all the description, and the star only has to say, "Book 'em, Dano." And everybody goes, God, what a wonderful actor. So, meanwhile, I'm the guy who goes, well, we got the perp. He's down there. He's wearing a purple suit. He's driving a car, and he's on 57th Street. And then all he has to do is go, book him, Dano. And nobody remembers me. I mean, everybody's going like, God, he's so good. So I learned really quick that, and this is a hard thing for a lot of performers and actors to learn. It's not about you. It's about the product. So when I talked about that, I was thinking, you know, here I am. I'm working everything to enhance the product, to make the product function at best. And I said, you know, no, you know, I had to go back to my roots, which was communication, which like telling a story. And happily I found that, and then I can combine the two. And it took me a long time to learn that, to act, to function as a Screen Actors Guild union member, but also to function as that character. And that's what makes when you watch something that has quality, it reaches you. It reaches you kinetically and stirs something in you. And so I was taught that by my mentors and some good teachers. I don't know if you watch Deadwood, but Deadwood has a bunch of actors that are so good in it, you know.
Amazing cast.
They were just so good, and just working with them, just it was just heaven. It was wonderful. I mean, you know, most actors, when we wait in our trailers and we come on the set, we do our scene, but in Deadwood, I would go down there to watch William Sanderson or Ian McShane or Paula Malcolmson do their scene with somebody else because they were so good.
Yeah.
And we'd learn. And there you had a leader a man by the name of David Milch who created NYPD Blue and created Deadwood. And he just gave everything to the story. And that's why we kind of like had a lot of problems, because the studio would say, hey, you guys are over budget, or hey, you guys got to shoot that within a certain amount of time. And David was like, no, we got to make the story good.
Yeah.
We got to make the show good. So, we'd shoot something in episode 1, and during episode 3, after a couple of weeks, he'd say, you know what? I got to go back to episode 1 because I can make that scene better. I can rewrite it. But what you have to do then is go back, get all the actors together, get all the costumes together, get all the scenery together that might be in storage now.
Right.
And that costs money. And so there's always that conflict. Whenever you watch something, there's always a conflict between money and art.
Sure.
So that's the kind of things that maybe I talk about in my experience. You asked me like when did I, make a turn? Well, fortunately, I've been able to work with some great people like Francis Ford Coppola. I worked with him in a movie called Jack with Robin Williams.
Yes.
And Francis would have us come up to his place in Northern California for a week just to rehearse, and just to get to know each other, get to know the cast, get to know what he expected of you. He'd bring us all up there. He'd have his chef cook the meal for us.
Wow.
It was wonderful. We'd sing songs, Italian opera, and we'd come back later and shoot our scenes. Work with Al Pacino. I worked with Al Pacino in a movie called Stand Up Guys. Al is just an actor's actor. Just working with him, you just sense the confidence that he has in what he's doing, and it takes precedence over everything else, the scene. So if you watch Al, I mean, he's so good in everything, even in his terrible stuff. but I mean, he's an actor's actor. So I guess it's that confidence to be real.
Yeah.
And we were talking about TV. I don't know. I was talking with somebody today, and like there's some shows that have been on for 22 years, and I was like, and it's just like, I don't know who's watching. I mean, it's just the results are predictable. Everything is predictable.
Yeah.
And it's like boring. It's like boring, but it's lasted for 22 years.
Right. I mean, good press, I guess. Good PR.
Well, so when you look at something, I want people to look with a good eye, a different eye. Watch people, watch the relationships, listen to not only the text, but the subtext, what's going on underneath. And if you watch like Ultraman Rising, which is on Netflix, I'm wearing this Ultraman.
Yeah, I noticed.
And, I try to bring depth to the character, even in animation, try and bring something that people can identify with. Because after all, at my age, I'm doing it for my own personal expression.
Right.
And it's something that I want, if my child watches it in the years to come, he can say, oh, I understand that. That was my, I'm very proud of what he did.
Yeah, and you've got a huge body of work to be proud of. My goodness, any actor would be envious of all the different people you've worked with, the roles you've had, the projects you've worked at. It's impressive. We're going to take one more quick commercial break. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about some of those projects. I've got a couple of pages marked in this 30-page thing I printed out. We'll try to get to some of the highlights anyway. If you're listening right now, again, I'm sorry, I never pay attention to the chats. Everyone who watches my show knows this. Hello, Chance, listening from Atlanta, Georgia. SJ, listening from Los Angeles. Hello, SJ. We've got people listening. Karen, right here in St. Charles, Missouri, just across the river. So thank you all. If you want to leave a comment or if you've got a question for Keone, you can leave it on the KTRS text lines at 84126, or you can pop them right there into the chat, and I will try to keep an eye on those. I promise I'll try to do better. But we'll take a very quick commercial break, and then we're going to come right back chatting more. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550. Please stand by.
Lofty. Each sold separately. They're so soft.
So Soft My Little Pony. Shady and other So Soft ponies sold separately from Hasbro.
Supernatural. Now you can join the battle between brave Lionheart and evil Skull and their eerie ghostlings.
Lion, you're dying. Now, Master.
They change to fight with ghostly might. Turn them into the light and they change into even more powerful creatures.
Now, the lion in me is free. Take this.
Supernaturals. Lionheart, Skull, and Ghostling sold separately. New from Tonka.
H-I-T-S-T-I-A. Something. And an amplifier too. But you don't need drums to make these sounds. It's true. Hit six. Hit six. Play them in the air. You can play them anywhere. That drive you crazy and you're about my two. Hit six. One the only hit six.
Meet the Pretenders, who wear a bunch of cats who'll do anything to get out of this pet shop, even dress up like other animals. Shh. So if you see us in your neighborhood and you find out we're not what you think we are, you're the best bunny ever. Purr? You're not a bunny. You're a cat. Don't tell, okay? Don't worry. It'll be our secret.
The Pretenders from Fisher-Price. Squeeze.
DOG, Dogtown Pizza, and dogtownpizza.com.
Yo, Joe!
Hi, this is Mary McDonald Lewis, and I was the voice of Lady J on G.I. Joe.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner. I'm the voice of Flint on G.I. Joe, and listening to Geek to Me Radio.
It's half the battle.
G.I. Joe against Cobra, the enemy, fighting to save the day. He never gives up. He's always...
Since we have Keone Young on the show, we had to come back with the voices of Bill Ratner, Mary McDonald Lewis, Flint and Lady J from G.I. Joe. We'll make sure we tell you about our premier sponsor, which is, of course, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. You might know the website, discoverstcharles.com. We're getting into the Burr months now. I can't believe we're almost into October already here. September seems to have flown by, but if you're looking for something to do, if you want to get out and enjoy this lovely weather as we make the transition into fall, head on out across the bridge, check out historic St. Charles, walk the cobblestone streets, check out the historic buildings, grab some fantastic local food at these small independently owned restaurants, check out these amazing shops that are all small businesses, independently owned as well, and just have some fun. We're gearing up for the Legends and Lanterns Festival. Boy, if you're a Halloween fan, St. Charles is going to be the place you want to be those middle 3 weekends of October. You can go and hang out with the likes of Lizzie Borden and Edgar Allan Poe. The Brothers Grimm are out there, the Phantom of the Opera, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and a lot of other characters you can interact with up and down historic South Main Street in St. Charles. The big pumpkin glow, you can come out with your kids. They close the street off for that, and you can have the kids come out in costume, have a little Halloween pregame before the big weekend, next weekend on Halloween. But that runs those 3 weekends. If that sounds like something you're interested in, or if you're waiting for Christmas traditions, their big Christmas festival happening in December, check out the website, discoverstcharles.com. Click on the events tab. That'll tell you all about the cool goings on. And if you're not local, maybe you're out of town, like our friend Keone, and you want to check it out, lots of places to stay. If you want a 5-star hotel with fantastic accommodations, if you want a campground, if that's more your thing, an RV park, or charming bed and breakfast, all of those bases are covered with St. Charles. Check out the places to stay tab there. Check out the restaurants. If you haven't been over there lately, there's probably something new for you to discover, whether it's Sugar and Slice for some fantastic macarons, or on the weekends, my gosh, Saturday and Sundays, they make these huge cinnamon rolls that just melt in your mouth. You can check those out. If you want some barbecue, sit out on the patio at Salt and Smoke, have some bourbon and some barbecue. No better way to spend a afternoon than that. Once again, the website, discoverstcharles.com, discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Chatting here for the rest of the hour with Keone Young, my guest tonight. We had Bill Ratner and Mary McDonald Lewis bringing us back from commercial break there. I know they've told me before about getting cast in G.I. Joe. Was that, do you remember the getting cast for that? Was it a surprise that you got it? Did you what was that like, the casting process for that?
Well, you have to understand, at that time, it was 1984, and I was just a poor actor, and I was doing stage and I was doing theater, so I was focused on those kinds of things. I was during my training period, and cartoons at that time were not within our realm, because most of the cartoons had come from Hanna-Barbera or Disney, and those guys were pretty much stock actors, Frank Welker, and a bunch of other, Mel Blanc, and that was not you didn't mess with that turd. That was whole different science. So what had happened was the industry had started to turn, because it was during the period of the civil rights movement, which was in the 60s and 70s, and everybody wanted to, some kind of portrayal of American society as a whole. And so they got Larry Hama to do the G.I. Joe story. So he started incorporating other characters now Larry is the serviceman, so he was in the Army. So he wanted to write about, fighters, military guys that he knew. So he included guys like, him, and so he created this character of Storm Shadow. And I wanted to make it true. I wanted to make it an honest of a Japanese American. And we have this great history in terms of like World War II, and which Larry and I are both a child of. We're boomer babies. And we come from the post-war, so we heard all the stories, and we come from a great military cultural identity, like with the 442, who was it was a Japanese American unit that was the most decorated during World War II, and we knew all the stories about them. So Larry created this character, and I really was so happy that I really fought to get the role, and I was fortunate enough to, and I wish I could go back knowing what I know now and to redo some of this stuff, because I know I could make it better.
But that's, again, that you kind of look back. I think everyone has that, looking back from like, I could have done this. But I mean, those performances, like I said, as a young kid consuming those, I always point to G.I. Joe as, even back in the 80s, there was the G.I. Joe team had a Native American person. They had, Quick Kick was obviously of Asian American. They had females in high positions of power. So it really was that kind of great snapshot, as you said, of our country. It was diversity right there on display for us, which I think we kind of, now looking at the way things go, we're almost spoiled by that kind of stuff back in those cartoons, which it showed us the way things should be, which was great.
Well, I think, Storm Shadow brought, and each of us in our cultural diversity brought different standards, like for us, honor and respect, it was for the character of Storm Shadow, was really important. And I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
The respect of the elderly, the respect of the wise people, the respect of people who are trained, and the love of perfecting oneself. And I thought a lot of people kind of identify with that.
Yeah.
I meet I meet guys who are in their 50s that come up to me and go, "You were my childhood."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what I wanted to convey. Whatever I portrayed, I wanted to portray my father, my grandfather, who I learned from a lot.
Mhm.
And I would always ask, how would my grandfather do this? How this situation? How would he respond?
Mhm.
Because we take great pride in our ancestors and our culture.
Yeah.
And I think that resonates with all people,
Sure.
So Storm Shadow embodies a lot of that.
And as you said, it was kind of that I always think of the early 80s when we were launching all those as a kind of a renaissance in animation, because they had all these fantastic cartoon shows. There were, Saturday morning cartoons was, there'd be 8 or 9 shows on right there. And then you'd also have the weekday programming like He-Man, like G.I. Joe and Voltron. So it's got to be, as you said, very rewarding to have this legacy of this character that you gave the voice to before anyone else had a crack at it. That people are coming up to you and saying things like, "You were my childhood." That's got to be an amazing feeling, especially knowing what the role was when you first took it on.
Yeah. It's really funny because, we're talking about also good and evil, Cobra versus Joe.
Sure.
And we all have that in us, and I don't know about you, but I just love Cobra so much.
It's always fun to play the bad guy. Am I right?
The wickedness of Cobra, surely was within my heart as well.
Yeah, the bad guys always. I think Roger Moore said it's always more fun to play the baddie than it is the hero sometimes. And you've had many. Go ahead.
You mustn't lose sight of your humanity, even if you're bad.
Right. Yeah, because that's the best villains are the ones who you kind of have a little bit of resonation for. It's like, oh, I kind of know why he's doing this. And people always point to, I guess the most recent example was Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger in Black Panther. Yeah. People are like, boy, you kind of got to relate to him on certain levels, and that you find that humanity even in the villain, and that kind of really sells the part.
Well, that's where the anti-hero started coming out.
Right. Yeah.
As somebody who just got off the wrong path, who was a great person, but he just, because of circumstances, and that happens to everybody.
Yeah, more often than I'd like to admit, actually. It's cool, too, because you've been in so many different franchises. The Star Wars franchise with Rebels. You've been in Star Trek. I think it was a video game, but you voiced a character in Indiana Jones. All these Men in Black, all these just amazing franchises, and also the new Gremlins that was just out. We had Joe Dante on the show just before that animated series dropped, and you were a character in that. Do you find at this point in your career, do you have a preference, live action versus voice, or do you just love to work?
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. Like voice is really great because. As an actor, as a performer, everybody thinks they can do the job better than you.
Sure.
The writer, the director, the lighting man, the camera. I could do. No, he should do it this way. But nobody messes with a voice actor because they know they can't reproduce what we can reproduce.
Yeah.
So voice acting is one craft that's really respected in our industry.
Sure.
You don't mess with when Frank Welker comes to the set, it's like, here he is. Okay, Frank. You tell us what you want to do.
Right.
And Peter Cullen and so on and so on. But I mean, so the craft itself is highly respected, and I love it. Now, also in terms of the structure of it, like when you do an on-camera film, because the film, the way it's structured and the economy of it, you start at 6 when the sun comes up. So you're starting at 6 a.m.
Right.
That means you got to be up at 4 a.m. to be ready, get in your car, go to the set, get into makeup, wardrobe to be on the set at 6 a.m. That's really rough.
Yeah.
And you have to do it every day, and that's why people go crazy. And then you got to look good,
Right.
besides that. So, but in in voice work, I could go in my pajamas.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I could do the job in my pajamas. I could roll out of bed, be there, and I could schedule it anytime I want to.
Yeah.
You know. So at my age, I really enjoy doing voice work, because I'm highly respected, yet the expectations on me are really low.
And I assume that most voice actors I've talked to since COVID, you've got your own studio in your house there. How do you feel? Because I know I've talked to several who miss, because they used to do it in the round. You'd be right across from some of the other guys, and you'd feed off that energy like a live theater production would be.
Yeah.
And then some people said, "Boy, I kind of miss that." And then some people said, no, I love just rolling down to my studio right downstairs, popping on the mic and recording it. Do you miss that camaraderie, or do you kind of enjoy the getting it done in your own time and the solitude of being in your own booth?
Well, during COVID, I did a whole series. It was called, for Netflix, it was called the Usagi Chronicles, the Samurai Rabbit. It's takeoff on Usagi Yojimbo.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of that. Stansakai. Yeah. So anyway, we did a whole series. We did 2 years, and I did it at home. But, I'm not an engineer, and I respect a good engineer, a good craftsperson. So I like going into a studio, working with somebody who knows what they're doing, as opposed to somebody like me, who at first, when the producer was saying, turn your gain down, I was going like, what's a gain?
I don't have that laundry detergent. I use Tide. I don't use Gain.
So, I mean, so like I enjoy working with people, not just actors, but I enjoy working with like a technician, an engineer, and there's some really, you can tell, quality engineers, good engineers,
Yeah.
It's really a joy to work with. Good engineers, good producers, good staff.
Yeah.
And now, like with Star Wars Rebels, Dave Filoni loved to work with an ensemble. So we would work together as a group, and that way we got to know each other. We felt comfortable. I got to know Freddie Prinze very well, Vanessa Marshall, and also work with some of the great voice actors like Steven Stanton and Steve Bloom, great voice actors who I learned from just working with.
Yeah.
And so that's where you learn. Going down in your studio is good if you just want to rip off something really quick, but working with people is always, acting is a collective thing.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not like sculpture or painting where you can do by yourself. You're working with other people, so you have to resonate off of other people.
Right.
So I like working with people.
This hour is wrapping up. My theme song is going to be playing here in about a minute and 15 seconds. Before I let you go, you mentioned Joe Lanta. Where people want to keep up with you online, you seem like you're pretty active on social media. What's the best place to send people to if they want to find out what the stuff you've got coming up is and projects and appearances?
Well, I'm on Instagram, and I'm Young Keone, because somebody stole Keone Young before I could get it. So I'm Young Keone on Instagram, and I kind of post all my stuff. I'm going to be at Joe Lanta on September 26th to the 28th.
Okay.
It's right outside of Atlanta, and it's Larry Hama is going to be there. Greg Berger, who's Spirit and Firefly, also Grimlock and Transformer.
Yes.
He's going to be there with me. And Ron Rudat, who is a great artist who created that Cobra logo and many of the military vehicles. I'm sorry we couldn't talk more. I mean, we didn't even talk about my Star Trek stuff. Which,
I know. I mean, I showed you. I mean, I've got pages here. So at some point, hopefully, I can convince you to come back on. Maybe we can talk about some more stuff, because there's a bunch of stuff that we didn't get to cover. So yeah, hopefully you'll be willing to do it again.
Yeah, and I'd love to have taken questions from your people. I mean, I'm so sorry I couldn't. No,
like I say, it's my fault partly because the time constraints, but also I try to pay attention to the chats as much as I can. But yeah, if anyone's listening, we'll get Keone back on, so don't worry about it. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully I will see you again at one of these upcoming events because I try to get out to the cons, and hopefully I'll catch up with you. I've not had the chance to meet BJ Ward yet, so if nothing else, I'll probably pop down to Joe Nuga. Joe Nuga. Yes, that's
right.
well. So yes, but absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so very much, and we'll hopefully do it again soon.
Okay, James. Thank you.
Thank you. Be well. There he goes. Thank you all for listening tonight. Thank you for my sponsors, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau and Bugs Comics and Games. Thank you, as always, to... There he is. There's Joey V. Thank you to Joey V for making the show look and sound as good as it does every week. And we'll talk to you again next week. Sean Gunn is on with us, so make sure to check that out. And until then, my friends...
When you make Game of Thrones references, that's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Cobra Island. Good night.